Good morning, YouTube. It's 10 a.m. in the great state of Texas, and this is take 3 of this commentary, actually, so hopefully we get it right on this one. So what we're doing here is finally getting to an epoxy project that I said I was going to do weeks ago, and have finally gotten around to do it. So all we're doing is mixing up some East Coast resin, some orange pigment, some yellow neon glitter. Going to mix it up and try to make a cool little project out of it. So if you guys know anything about West Texas weather, it changes every 15 minutes. I actually set up this mold months ago. Maybe I did this back in maybe March, April, somewhere around there. I know it was like March at least. But the weather changes every 15 minutes. And in this, shot, I'm wearing shorts because it's probably super nice outside. And I'm just thinking, you know what, let's go make and set up an epoxy project, because temperature control with epoxy is super duper important. And the only time you can really work with epoxy is when your shop is warm and the epoxy flows relatively easy, just like this. But the weather's gonna change here in about 15 minutes because it's West Texas, and I'm gonna have to deal with that a little bit later. But actually, I set this up months ago and finally got around to doing it. So if you guys have been watching the project I've been doing, or watching the channel, I've been doing pens, I've been doing wood projects, and strictly those kinds of things. I haven't really done anything with epoxy, but 4.5 hours in the pressure pot for both pieces, and then literally about a month and a half later, I finally get to actually working on this project. And we're putting the faceplate on here, which has become the most difficult thing ever for me to do, and I just need to use my impact driver from now on, because everything that I've done outside of using the impact driver is just not working. But here we go, getting this onto the lathe here and just trying to make a cool project out of it. So it's just like riding a bike, but however, if you don't ride a bike for a while, you tend to have problems. And working with epoxy, the bad news is if you don't work with a particular type of material for a long period of time, sometimes you end up having a little bit of an issue. But we're not going to have that much of a problem on this one, but I think the important thing for getting back to working with epoxy, because the majority of the remaining projects for the year are going to be mostly epoxy projects, which I love to do, but sometimes they can be aggravating. And I was thinking about this while I was woodworking, doing this project, which was, people get into hobbies because they're relaxing or it makes them, feel a certain way. I love woodworking. I do love making and creating things. However, sometimes when you're not focused on your task, it can be problematic. And this project was a good example of that. So sometimes you really just need to concentrate on what you're doing. And even though I don't have any real catastrophic issues with this project, for instance, when I'm doing this mortise here, the chisel kicked out of my hand a couple of times. Not kicked out, but it kind of spun out of my hands a little bit, and I kind of got frustrated. But, people say, love the process. The process is fun sometimes, but a lot of the times I've got a death grip on the chisel, and I'm just waiting for something to go wrong. And that's a whole mindset thing. But, no, I wouldn't really say that woodworking to me is, stress relieving. If anything, it adds a lot of stress. But what we're doing here is now we're working down the lid. The first piece of epoxy was going to be the main pot, but this is going to be the actual lid portion. And this is a great example of that concentration, and not focusing, because I used 2 different size pots for my epoxy project, which is going to be problematic a little bit later in the project. But, even though woodworking can be aggravating, it's still fun. But it doesn't give me any kind of stress relief. It's very aggravating sometimes. I like the end goal, which is to make something cool out of something that, was nothing in the beginning. But, it's not till the end where I really feel any kind of sense of relief or any kind of real satisfaction from the project. Because woodworking can be stressful, whether you're turning bowls or making tables or making a cabinet, whatever it is you're doing. To me, it's super duper stressful. So here's my favorite part, which is, using an impact driver to take out these screws. So I think for the remaining time I'm woodworking, however long that might be, I'm just going to use the damn impact driver, because every time I use the drill to put in simple screws into pine, it just gives me so many problems. So that's something that I think about that stresses me out, that just, kind of gets to me a little bit. But, I watch some woodworkers make stuff and they seem like super calm during the whole process. But then again, it's, social media, so you want to put your best foot forward. But me, this is super stressful a lot of the time when I do these projects. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that most of the time when I'm doing these projects, it's super duper stressful. It's very aggravating at times. It's very, I don't even know how to say it. Sometimes I literally want to punch the lathe, even though I know that's stupid, because you just get frustrated sometimes working with stuff. And for me, it's not stress relieving. It's very stressful. But people will say, well, then why do you do it then? It's because the satisfaction of actually getting through something. And I think every project is a little bit different, that presents its own problems, but it's super duper stressful. And working with epoxy again, it just reminded me of how stressful it can be. Because sometimes when you get like bad chatter on, the chisels, or things tend to spin out on you, or, a big piece of epoxy comes off the blank and hits you in the face, which has happened to me plenty of times, it can be super aggravating and super frustrating. So I think it's important just to stick with it. So it's not so much the process, and people always say enjoy the process, which is one aspect of it, but me, it's just like I don't get that stress relief until the project's done. So it's one of those things where you put stuff on your plate and it's going to be kind of stressful, but it's just satisfying accomplishing something in the end. So essentially, that's what it is. So I guess that answers that question. Does Salty Texas, does he like woodworking? I love woodworking. But if you were to ask me if it's stress relieving, it's not. If anything, it just adds a whole bunch of stress. And you should do stuff you like and make stuff that you like to do. But this is a good example of this. Even though I've done projects like this, and you have this big mess, it's satisfying getting to a certain point, getting to the end. But this is what that small piece of epoxy turned out. Just tons and tons of shavings that I now have to clean up. But we ended up getting to this portion of it, even though I was really worried that, the epoxy was going to explode on me, which it didn't. But, when you don't work with certain material for a long time, it tends to stress you out. And it stressed me out a little bit. And I'm about to have some more stress here in a bit making this lid. So essentially doing the same thing here, just working down the material well enough, and then we're going to flip this over, make a mortise. This is a great example here. Just trying to separate this wood, and then the damn thing getting stuck, and you're just going, son of a bitch. Ugh. I don't think I've ever seen any, there might be, because there's literally thousands of us woodworkers on YouTube. I don't think I've ever seen anybody just really lose it on a project. I've thrown stuff sometimes, but I think a lot more of us just need to show just the aggravation portion of this. I don't think we talk about that enough a lot of the time as woodworkers. It's just, things just get aggravating sometimes, but maybe that's just me. But anyway, we stick with the project and we stick through it. Obviously, as you guys could tell, we do get something out of this. And here I am just trying to size up the bowl here, and I'm just making a lip to where the lid's going to sit on top of the main body, and bam, there's a problem right there. This piece was absolutely the wrong size for this, so now I have to somehow figure out how to make this fit. And here I am just readjusting it again, trying to look at it, trying to get an idea of just how small I need to make this. And here I am just working off the material, so just frustrated is just not even the right word. It's just, you can't tell by the video, but I'm just like super just aggravated that I'm like, I can't believe that I made two different size pots, and why in the world would I think that was going to work? So now you have to stop, think, reevaluate, and just work the problem down, and that's essentially what we did there. So once I kind of sized it up to a good proximity, then we just go ahead and start punching through the mortise, and then we're going to flip that down, and then we'll finally have the lid, and then we can kind of have some semblance of a pot here. But it just goes back to, I guess, woodworking 101. If you're going to do something, work the problem. And sometimes it is just good to just, throw stuff away when you have issues. Just sometimes it's good just to reset the brain and just start over sometimes. But I felt like, you know what, we can punch through, we can kind of like work the problem a little bit until we just absolutely can't. But even though the bowl didn't size up exactly the way that we wanted to, there was still enough material here to where we could, get to the end point and, make something, which will be the satisfying part for me. So once I sized up everything real nice and neat, now we do my favorite part, which is sanding, going from 320 or 340 all the way up to 1,000 grit dry, and then we're going to come back and hit it with a micro mesh and then do our polish. And sanding, once you get to the sanding portion, most times the problems have pretty much worked themselves out, but it's just getting to this point that can be aggravating sometimes. And just like anything else, you just have to stop and think about it. And I know this video's been kind of just womp womp, but I'm just like, I was just thinking about that, just the stress level of doing stuff. But we worked it out. The pot looks okay, and I'm sure next week's project I'm gonna have the exact same problems. But I don't know. I just wanted to talk about that. Like, it's stressful woodworking. It's not all glitz and glam, I guess. I don't know. Nobody ever said it was, but I don't know. Just thinking about stuff made me just want to say, hey, it's stressful, but this is the part that I like. It's getting to the end and accomplishing something, I guess. But here's another stressful part here, just trying to find the center of this bowl and just taking out a small portion so we can drill in the actual light bright peg here a little bit. And you can kind of see that little bitty hole is going to make all the difference in this project. And if you can hear in the background, that's my cat trying to get in. So, drilling in this hole, we're almost done, and I'm just going, okay. Drill that in. And then we're going to put our light bright peg in there. And what you're not going to see is the actual first part when I put that in. And I was like, oh, look, perfect fit. But now we're just going to take some 15-minute epoxy, mix that up really well, and then you can see the light bright peg there right by my hand. Put that in. Give it a good polish, and then we are all done. So, hope you guys liked the video. Hope you guys liked my rambling. I don't care, it's my channel. Just sometimes you gotta ramble and let some stuff out. But overall, really happy how this one turned out. You can see the light bright peg there, and just a nice orange pumpkin looking bowl. Woodworking is stressful, but it's also fun. Do what you enjoy, make what you like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, peace. Alright, so project is done, and this little guy turned out relatively cool. Now, we had some problems, obviously I went over that in the commentary. The lip of the bowl does not attach as well as it should, but overall, I really like this bright orange color. You can kind of see the white swirl in it. So, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the actual pour onto this video. So there was a whole section, I've had to switch computers, there's been some issues, but really like how this turned out. And the little orange top on it makes it really cool. Just kind of sad that the gluing or the attachment point isn't that great. It kind of gives it a little bit different look, but overall really happy how it turned out. But man, kind of stressful when you're on the chisels thinking about stuff, and oof, kind of wanted to punch this thing a couple of times, but aggravation does occur. So anyway, hope you guys liked it. Hope you got something out of it. I'm going to go edit this video so you guys can watch it. And I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.